Bookie's New and Used Books is a supporter of WXAV 88.3 FM and WXAV.com. Located at 10324 Southwestern Avenue in Chicago, Bookie's offers a selection of new and used books with orders available for books not currently in stock. For more information, visit their website at bookiesbookstores.com.
Support for WXAV 88.3 is being provided by Northwest Community Credit Union, located on campus inside the Graham School of Management. The credit union provides its members with a variety of financial products and services to help them achieve their financial goals. Members can access services and bank on NWCCU's mobile app. For more information, visit their website at nwccu.com or call them at 1-800-2BELONG.
This is a WXAV 773 Sounds podcast, introducing you to the best local bands in the Chicagoland area.
Hi, this is Peter Kreten from 773 Sounds here on the WXAV 88.3 FM Chicago, your escape from ordinary radio. And I am really excited for this week's featured artist of the week. It's another great jazz band, and this is a band that we have been featuring since the beginning of 773 Sounds. They're a great jazz fusion band that's been around since 2022. They bring you a great mixture of Latin vibes, funk music, soul, and of course, jazz. They are Los Tamales Jazz Band, and I have two members of the band with me tonight. I have the trumpet player, Cesar. Cesar, how are you?
Good. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. And then we also have Sebastian. How are you?
Hi, yes, I'm doing really good. Thank you.
Excellent. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here. I always like to start these interviews with kind of going back to the beginning. Can you guys kind of share how you first discovered music?
Oh man, first discovering music. Well, growing up, like all the little kids shows always have really nice music, stuff like Sesame Street. I was a big fan of the Wiggles growing up.
Oh, nice.
So that's at least from my parents' side. It's been so long since I've seen that, but they actually had very prominent trumpets in their score. And interestingly enough, even though I don't remember that, they claim that it's probably a major influence why I ended up picking up the trumpet. I'm not sure whether or not it's true, but maybe it is.
I like to think that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Sebastian, how about with you?
For music in general, for me, I feel like the earliest that I can remember is two things. One being from movies. I really love the score in all the Star Wars movies.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like that's been a big influence for me. And actually two would actually be from video games. Like video games such as the one I can think of the most is probably Sonic Unleashed with their symphonic orchestral score. It's a really good score. And actually, when I heard that the main score in that game, I actually wanted to play the flute before I went to the school band in 5th grade and tried out for flute, but they said no. How about you try out for a brass instrument? So I tried out for the euphonium or the baritone, and then it was just set on from there.
That's awesome. Now, I love the unique journey for both of you guys, from the incredible music of children's television programs to, probably the greatest film composer of all time in John Williams. For you, how did you then discover jazz music, and who are some of your favorite jazz musicians?
Well, given that I picked up the trumpet at the age of 9 or 10, the local middle school band actually came to our elementary school to do a showcase. And so that was actually my first time that I had ever heard a live jazz band. And just hearing that, one performance kind of made me go all in. After that, I started exploring a lot of other musicians. Things like the trumpet player Wayne Bergeron is a major influence for me. He's if you've ever heard any Disney soundtrack like The Incredibles, I'm pretty sure he was on The Incredibles. Very important and critically acclaimed commercial trumpet player. For small group jazz, I really look up to the trumpet player Clifford Brown, as not only is he historically known as one of the greatest of all time, but he was also one of the few people that's looked back on from that era as like being a generally positive influence, both in terms of, musicality and who he was as a person. He wasn't the kind of person, during this time, everybody was addicted to very serious drugs. They were harsh. Oftentimes there were racial tensions and things like that. Clifford Brown, on the other hand, has always been remembered as one of the kindest people that has ever came out of the jazz industry. So yeah, I think those are two of the biggest influences for me.
That's awesome. How about you, Sebastian?
Yeah, for me, I actually got into jazz pretty late. I didn't actually getting into jazz until like probably around the eighth grade in middle school. That's when that's when I started joining the jazz band in the school. I actually first joined on euphonium, and then it wasn't until high school that I started playing the trombone for the jazz bands there. And then again in high school, famous jazz trombone player Wycliffe Gordon actually came to our high school to do a like a clinic over there, and he was actually a really big inspiration for like getting into jazz. And then after that, hearing players like Juan Sol on the valve trombone, which is the instrument that I play, also been a big inspiration. I think he played a valve trombone in C, if I remember correctly. I think it was a King, and his sound is just amazing. The sound that he can come out with.
So, we've explored how you guys discover jazz and some of your influences. How did Los Tamales jazz band then come together?
Oh yeah, it's a fun story. We actually formed from the Moraine Valley Community College Jazz Combo. So this was in 2022. We had a group of 5 or 6 people, I believe it was, that were all in this combo, and we decided to just form a band, play a little bit outside of university, and from there it really just kicked off. We started recruiting new people, kind of finding our own sound, and yeah, that's really how it started. It all came from this Moraine Valley Jazz combo.
And it sounds like it was a very like organic, like coming together and everything. Now you've been playing almost 4 years now. What is it like when you're up there together performing? Are you at the point where you can kind of look at each other and know exactly where the other person wants to go? And what is it like when you play and you're able to like connect with the audience?
Yeah, jazz music is, in my opinion, inherently meant to be dynamic. It's not meant to be the kind of thing where you know exactly what's going to happen at any point. Um, the best performances are, at least in my opinion, always when both the band and the audience don't know exactly what's going to happen next. And we try to reflect that in our performances. We try to maintain a very fine line between a cohesive and balanced sound and something that's completely unique every time that you come to see us. There are a couple of things that we do to try to execute that principle. The number one most obvious one is solo improvisation order, right? Obviously, when we're up there and we're improvising, which tends to make up the majority of the time in our performances, it's just individuals or maybe a couple of people creating melodies on the spot. That inherently adds a sense of like dynamic contrast where you don't know what's going to happen next. But when you go to one performance, you hear us play one song a certain way, and then if you come to a second performance, it's going to be like you never heard that song in the first place because of how different it is. We alter how things are ordered. We introduce different rhythmic feels. All these sorts of improvised factors really kind of define jazz and Los Tamales as a whole. But that being said, there does need to be a other side to that, because if we don't know anything that's going on, it's going to fall apart, right? So this is where the line between a well-rehearsed group and a not so well-rehearsed group really shines. I think over the years, Los Tamales has really grown to the point that we can just kind of look at each other and we'll know exactly what the other person wants, right? And there are many times where let's say we want the drummer to like do like a halftime feel for a solo. We'll just turn and look at him for a brief second, and Jeremiah, the drummer, knows exactly what to do. These sorts of things really only happen, like you said, when you've been playing together for so long. But I think there's also something to be said just about the amazing skill of everybody in the band. Because while certainly, us playing together for a long time has made a significant contribution to that, there's also people that have been in the band for less time that fit in perfectly. You would never know. It seems like we've been playing together since we were born. Jazz music is really one of those things where I think when you reach higher levels, it just kind of works, if that makes sense. Everybody kind of knows what the other person wants, even if you don't know each other that well. But that's just my perspective.
Yeah, for me, I feel like another big thing about that is I feel like the communication and comfortability with everybody in the group. I feel like being comfortable, not only just being in the industry, but also being comfortable with everybody else in the band, that everybody's just able to go up to another person, be like, take a couple quick seconds, be like, hey, like if you want to first sample soloing in the song for improvisation, like you want to take the first solo, and the other person will be like, yeah, a couple quick seconds, and everybody's just communicating perfectly with each other. It can either be through body language, like Cesar said earlier, or just taking them a couple quick seconds to make it audible. Like you want to go first? Sure.
Now, for you, how do you guys approach how you can like connect with your audience when you're performing?
Oh, so I think it's kind of just deeply ingrained with how at least I've been taught to play. I think there's something to be said about the difficulty in approaching jazz music for a lot of people. It's often seen as something that's too snobbish, I guess, by a lot of people. Not everybody, obviously. But there definitely seems to be that sort of feeling among a significant amount of people. And I think some of the greatest things that we've ever been told is, we frequently are told that I didn't like jazz music until I heard Los Tamales play for the first time, right? That's something we've heard all the time. And it's always one of the greatest compliments because there does need to be kind of like an evolution into the future. And I think the way that we do that is not just by studying the old music, but by studying the things that make popular music enjoyable for people today. Notably, when I was learning how to improvise in high school, I was taught principles that don't just apply to improvisation, but to music composition as a whole across, pretty much any genre. And one of the notable aspects of this was the development of melodic and rhythmic motifs, basically where you take a melody or a cool rhythm and repeat it a certain number of times, slight modifications, basically just to kind of get it in your ear, right? Most popular music nowadays is popular because it's very catchy, right? People aren't really listening to the harmonic content of it. They're not even really listening to the lyrical content most of the time. People just kind of listen to what sounds good, what sounds catchy. And I think by implementing those kinds of ideas, thinking about how can we get, even if we're just coming up with it on the spot, how can we get melodies that will stick in people's heads? And we blend that with the more complex harmonic concepts from jazz music and, related styles like salsa or funk. And I think that's really what defines Los Tamales' unique sound and why audiences will connect with us. Because on one hand, the sound will be very catchy, very easy to listen to, and yet there are complexities going on in the background, mainly with harmony and like the rhythms that we're using that make it completely unique, something that they've never heard before. I think the final aspect of it is just how often we transition from one kind of sound to another. In our performances, there's really no downtime. At least we try to minimize downtime. And the differences between one song and another are pretty significant. Namely, we'll say, our opener song that we usually play for our live shows is a little funk song called Footwork. We don't have a recording of it out there yet, but it's like a funk soul kind of thing. And the thing that comes after it is a more like rock and blues oriented song. Then after that, we'll do something like salsa or bossa nova. And just by transitioning between these significantly different sounds, there's always something to latch onto. Audiences are never kind of like, oh, this is the same sound as the previous one. So yeah, I think it's a combination of factors, but the way we approach improvisation and the diversity in the genres that we use are probably the two biggest factors in connecting with our audience.
Yeah, for me, I feel like that diversity is a pretty huge one. Also, I feel like the time too, just going to every performance and actively trying to figure out, like trying to learn, like getting from the audience what they liked and what they didn't like. I feel like the diversity is also a big part where like not everyone is gonna like every style of music that we play, but because our music is so diverse, we're able to connect to a wider range of the audience so that they have a bigger chance to like the music and the style that we play as a group.
That's awesome. I am with Cesar and Sebastian from Los Tamales Jazz Band here on 773 Sounds. Now, if people want to check you guys out and find you on the web, where can they go and find you?
Oh yeah. Well, the best place would probably be our website, lostamalesjazz.com. But we also have social media pages on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can find all of those just once again by searching Los Tamales Jazz. If we have any other platforms that come up in the future, you can probably just search up Los Tamales Jazz and those will come up. That tends to be our handle wherever we go.
And you guys are also on Bandcamp, which is again
Yes.
lostamalesjazz.bandcamp.com.
Yes.
And you guys just recently released a fantastic cover of Errol Garner's Misty. Can you guys talk a little bit about your approach for recording that track?
We wanted to approach that as traditionally as possible in the sense we were kind of like using similar strategies that maybe they would have used 60 years ago, right?
Mhm.
The idea is we would show up, set everything up, play a couple of takes, and then just ship it. I think one of the benefits of jazz music is there isn't too much post-production work that needs to be done because we're not dealing with too many like electronic sounds or like drum beats or anything like that. You kind of just plug in the microphones, trust that the musicians will get the job done. Then you just make sure that the volume levels are tweaked and you send it out. Like I mentioned earlier, we try to focus a lot on like dynamic performances. And so we actually tried to not do too much planning for this. I set out a set list for everybody and we set everything up and we just recorded. We didn't do too much planning. We talked a little bit beforehand about like, oh, who's going to solo on this one song because we didn't want them to be too long. But other than that, it was pretty much just improvised and dynamic.
That's wonderful. It's a great recording of the track, and we've been
Thank you.
featuring it here on 773 Sounds, and it's really phenomenal. And you guys also have a great collection of songs that you released last June called Into the Blue. And it's really
Mhm.
great because you have a regular version, but then you also have an instrumental version
Mhm.
of the album. For you guys, when you're doing music, what kind of draws you? Is it more lyrical content or is it more melody?
Um, Given that I'm a trumpet player, I would definitely say it's a melody. But actually, I would say if outside of those two choices, it's probably harmony. Harmony
Mhm.
is probably the number one thing for me. Um, Melody is obviously important, but I think the reason why I would value lyricism the least out of all of those three, and that's not to say it isn't important, it's just to me the least important, would be that harmony can convey similar emotional feelings without having to say any words. And I think not only
Yeah.
is it more complex, but it also leaves room for more diverse interpretations of the music. For example, there were times where we would play a song that I would generally describe as like a positive kind of feeling based on the harmony, but people in the audience would be like crying. And that always interested me personally, just kind of seeing how these different harmonic intervals kind of affect people in different ways. What does it mean to them? So yeah, that's my answer.
Sebastian, how about you?
For me, number one, I feel like would be harmony. I feel like the second biggest thing, aside from that, would actually be the rhythm. I feel
Mm.
like because there's actually not a lot of when 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 there's not a lot of music that actually has takes harmony into account. The rhythm's also, I feel like for me, the rhythm's also a big thing to just get the audience into like the groove of the music, just getting them into like maybe getting them up to dance, for example, at a performance, which we've seen a ton of times.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting because you guys are the first people when I've been doing the show that have mentioned the rhythm
Mm.
with the importance of it. That's really fascinating. I like that because I do feel like rhythm is sometimes forgotten when writing music. Now, if anyone wants to be able to see Los Tamales Jazz Band live, when can they go and see you and where you guys going to be playing at?
Yeah, so we're going to be collaborating with an entertainment organization called So Far Sounds for a Valentine's Day celebration on February 13th. The exact location is not public yet, but it's in Bronzeville, Illinois. It's kind of like a mystery box kind of thing. You don't know the exact location until about 48 hours before you get the tickets. But you can buy the tickets at any point, including right now. If you just go to our website, lostamalesjazz.com, you scroll down a little bit, there's going to be a like an events section where you can see upcoming and past live events. The ticket link is on there. So, if you're interested, feel free to buy those tickets. Come out to the show and tell us that you heard us from WXAV.
Yes, please do. So final question I have for you guys. Jazz is kind of almost like a forgotten genre over the last few years. It's not as popular as it was in its heyday in the 40s and the 50s, but I feel like there's a little bit of a renaissance that is happening with the genre. And really here in Chicago, there's some absolutely great jazz quartets and musicians and singers and everything. So for those people who are a little bit leery to give jazz music a try, what would you say to them? How would you encourage them to step outside their comfort zone and give jazz a listen to?
Yeah, jazz music is a medium best heard live. And I would argue this is the main reason why jazz is not as popular as it was before, is because most music is not consumed live anymore. As we start to see, less and less live performances and more CDs, more records. Obviously, jazz, was a thing during this time where there were records, but the more prominent those became, and the less prominent live music became, the less jazz became popular. I think if you want to get started, just go to any local jazz club, or find, it might not be a jazz club, but maybe it's like a restaurant or a bar that hosts a monthly jazz jam or something like that. It's definitely an experience you want to see in person, especially to get started. If that's not an option, I would recommend listening to an artist like something like Nardis by Miles Davis is a popular example that I like to give. It's actually like the first song that Los Tamales ever performed live. And what I've noticed is, like I mentioned earlier, we get a lot of people saying, "Oh, I never liked jazz until I heard you guys play." The most times we've ever heard that was after we would perform a cover of Nardis by Miles Davis. There's
Mm.
something special about that song that just changes people's minds. I don't know what it is, but if you can't see somebody live, check out Nardis by Miles Davis. Maybe you'll have the same revelation that so many other people have had.
Sebastian, how about you?
For me, there's a couple of places that you can go, like in the city. Like the two biggest things that I can think of are the Jazz Showcase in the South Loop. That's a pretty cool one to go to. And
Hmm.
another one is the Green Mill in the north side of the city. That's also a pretty good one. My friends have actually went to that and they've actually gotten into jazz because of that. Like they go they frequent that place a lot. And then actually, like for example, Cesar plays in the jazz combo at our local community college, and they have performances there that the audience can go to and get tickets for. That he also posts on the Los Tamales jazz band social media. So they can go and follow that as well, our social medias, and see that, oh, it looks like some of the people from the jazz band are performing at this in this jazz combo when I go to that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so important to give Los Tamales Jazz Band a follow on social media. Again, where can someone find you at on social media and on the web?
Search up Los Tamales Jazz. Any platform. You can even Google it to go straight to our website. Just search up Los Tamales Jazz.
Cesar, Sebastian, this has been such a fun conversation.
Of course,
Thank you
thank
guys
you.
so much for joining us today on 773 Sounds.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this WXAV 773 Sounds podcast. For more information on 773 Sounds, please visit our website, wxav.com.